Well, tonight, day 14, since we were on a Jack Daniels kick, I got out the Jack Fire. What? Everybody loves a Jack Fire every now and then. Yeah, I don't really read labels, I've realized. This is cinnamon liqueur blended with Jack Daniels Tennessee whiskey, 35% alcohol by volume, 70 proof. There you go. Everybody, and look, how adorable is this? That's my St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup Final shot glass. I'm not even sure where I got it. I think they may have sent it. I may have purchased it in the gift shop when I went to one of the games. Ugh, just warms your soul. It's a little much for me, but occasionally in a shot of it's nice. Okay, we're back to Tanya singing in school, all right? I started going in after school, and Miss Gilbert helped me work on songs. She soon learned that the only songs I knew or liked were country songs, and she knew nothing about country music. But God love her, she went out and bought sheet music for some of my favorite songs like Hank Williams' Your Cheating Heart, Loretta Lynn's Woman of the World, and Don't Come Home A-Drinking. I know that one. Don't come home a-drinking with loving on your mind. See, I can't sing, but I know the words. I liked Loretta Lynn. She's still alive. Very old, but alive. Once I understood what my voice would and would not do, singing was as easy as shooting fish in a barrel. You know, people say that like that's something common. Why would there ever have been fish in a barrel? I don't even get, and I eat fish, but I've never, it's just a very odd thing as a saying, shooting fish in a barrel. There'd be no reason fish would ever be in a barrel. And I understand that it's easy, but you know what I mean. One of the highlights of the year was when Miss Gilbert asked me to sing a solo at the school's Maypole ceremony. Thinking back on it, I probably ought to thank Mrs. Williams for sticking me in the dumb class. See how it all works out? Everything works out. Just because you get put with the dumb people doesn't mean you can't make the best of it, right? And seem smart. Some articles have made it seem like we burn rubber all over the western part of the United States while Dad tried to turn LaCosta and me into professional singers. That wasn't how it was at all. I was dead serious about my singing. I watched entertainers on television. I heard about talent contests. I listened to the radio. I knew my sister and I could do what those people did, and I started asking Mother and Dad to take me to hear live music in the area. Usually I'd hear about some performer coming to Wilcox and then beg the folks to try to get me to the show. They always tried to expose us to good country artists, people who'd already made it, those whose shows would teach us something. In the back of our minds was the hope that someone would take a personal interest. The folks would take us down to the VFW, which we called Vets Club, or to Rick's Tavern. We called it Rick's. Sometimes we'd drive to a club in Safford, Arizona, where I got to see people like Johnny Cash, the Carter family, Don Gibson, and Johnny Western. I'm sure that wasn't his real name. It was much more of a thrill to see great stars like that. It was incentive. I sang Your Cheating Heart so many times that within a couple years, people at the VFW Hall were actually calling me Little Miss Cheating Heart. It was at the Rick's Tavern I earned my first $1, and I still have it. I wish I'd been as careful about every dollar I earned. I'd finished singing my song and was coming back over to sit down with Mom and Dad, and the man walked up and said, "Well now, that was good. I'm going to give you $1 for that song." My eyes popped out of my head. People would give you money to sing? What a deal. That's how I felt about comedy. I still can't believe people give me money. My brother Don was home a lot during that period of time, and he decided LaCosta and I should have a band, and he should manage it. And that's how it all starts. Thus was born the country westerns, LaCosta and Tanya Tucker and two of Don's friends, Jerry and Daryl Hart. We all traded vocals. Then I learned how quickly a manager can separate you from your money. One time, Don got us a show at the VFW. He charged $1.50 at the door. We got a good crowd that night, good enough that my part of the take was $35. Don came around after the show and said, "Tanya, you only sang 4 or 5 songs. Jerry sang a lot more than you." I should have headed out the door right then, but I kept listening, wondering where this was going. Don hedged around and finally said, "You ought to give that $35 to Jerry." Don later said he was only trying to be fair to Jerry. "I handed over the cash, but I didn't forget it. The country westerns were short-lived." I agree with her. This is some horse shit. I got to split money. That's why comedy's better. You don't split it. Smart lady, get out of that band. Go on, go by yourself. We always kept careful watch for any stars that might be passing through, and when we learned that Ernest Tubb was coming to play at the VFW, we were excited. Ernest Tubb had always been my dad's favorite performer. Mother and Dad drove through a Texas blizzard to hear him play a show in 1946. Ernest recorded for Decca Records for over 25 years, and in 1966, when he played that show in Wilcox, he had a duet on the airways, "Sweetest Thing," with Loretta Lynn. Can't say I know that one. Mother and Dad, Joanne and Elmo Morris and Cindy and I went down to the Vets Club, and Daddy asked me if I wanted to try to sing on the show. He didn't have to ask twice. We ran around to the back of the club, and there sat a bus with the Texas Troubadours painted on the side. Daddy knocked on the bus door, and a fellow stuck his head out and asked what we wanted. He said he told him he was Ernest's road manager. "Well, I got this little girl who wants to sing," Daddy said. It was a line he'd use over and over in the next few years. "Well, all right," the man said. "Ernest's just getting up. He'll be out in a few minutes." That sounds very much like Ron. Wait. Pat answers the door of the bus and says, "Well, Ron's asleep. He'll be up in a little bit." He invited us to come on the bus, and we climbed up the stairs and waited for Ernest Tubbs. Well, that's awfully nice. You just let random people on the bus? Well, unless Ernest may not have thought that was nice, but the driver was nice. I think Daddy was far more impressed by being on the bus than I was. This man was his all-time hero. Yeah, who knew you could just walk right and get on the bus? Who would have thought? When Ernest Tubbs walked out of it, it's as if we'd known him forever. He shook our hands and asked how we were doing. When Daddy explained that I wanted to sing, Ernest grinned with a big old crooked grin. "Well, what can you sing, honey?" "I can sing 'Sweetest Thing,'" I said. Ernest got a big kick out of that, and he said he guessed he'd better hear me sing it. I must have passed his audition, because when I finished, he said, "Now, when I call you up on stage, you have to do what Loretta does before we start to sing. Loretta always gives me a little kiss right here on the cheek." Could be a little inappropriate for an older man to be saying that to a child. But we're not going to look at it that way. No. That's all I got for tonight. I hope you guys are entertaining yourselves somehow. If you're looking for a binge-watching show, if I didn't already recommend it, Jamestown on Amazon Prime. It's about the first settlement in America in 1619. And if you think a pandemic sucks, you should see what those people had to do on a daily basis. They're fighting with Indians. They have diseases. It'll really make you feel better about right now. I promise. Amazon Prime. It was on PBS, and now it's there. So that's all I got for you guys. I can't wait to see you again. Same chair, same Target lamp, and my book. I'll be here.